So if you're not allowed to use AI because you're dealing with sensitive information or your client or company doesn't want you to use AI, they aren't really saying, hey, don't use AI. What they're really saying is, we don't want you to share this data with the AI companies. And luckily, there's a really simple fix for that. It's called private AI or local AI. And you can set it up in just under 5 minutes. And after you set up, there's no data ever leaving your device. And the added benefit is that it's completely free. So you don't have to pay to use that AI. So what you're about to see is an 18-minute clip from my digital community called AI Makers Club, where we learn how to use AI technologies. And you can find more about this community in the description. So now let's jump into the clip and learn about the private AI. Okay, so let's chat about local AI. So how you can actually get AI to work on your own machine. So first, let's chat about what is even local AI. Well, it's basically, just imagine instead of you needing to log into Anthropic or OpenAI or Google Gemini's account, you could just run AI on your own machine, and you wouldn't have to pay for it. So that's what a local AI is. So let's also talk about what AI even is, because I think that will make it even more, you will understand better what's the difference between a local and a cloud-based AI. So AI is basically just a frozen snapshot of what this specific AI knows at this specific stage. And the way we talk about the knowledge is through parameters. You may have heard that, Opus 4.7 has this many parameters, and it's in trillions, right? Every parameter is basically a number, and that number is an association for a certain knowledge. So it's like how many things this model knows, hence how good it is in basically predicting the next word and how good it is in giving us answers and helping us code and do other things. So generally, more parameters is better. So why does local AI even matter? Why are we even talking about it? Well, the one thing I want to mention is the cost, right? So if you download a local open source AI, you can just run it on your own machine for free. Well, you have to pay for electricity, obviously, but apart from that, it is free to use. There's no usage limits. There is no API throttling or rate limits. You can just use it whenever you want, as long as you have enough RAM. But we'll talk about this in a bit. Second thing is privacy, and that's a huge one. So if you have an AI that runs on your own machine, every time you basically use it, let's just say this is your computer. Well, you are inputting something, I don't know, help me with this. Everything stays on the machine, everything. And this is completely different from the local-based AI, where, I don't know, you're putting something into your machine and then it goes into cloud to get an answer and then comes back with an answer. So everything you put in is basically potentially exposed to, well, it is definitely exposed to servers. So the company that you are working with, I don't know, maybe Anthropic if you're using Claude, or OpenAI if you're using Codex, does have access to the data. But yeah, they say they're not using it to train and not spying on us, but yeah, you never know. So privacy is a big thing here. The next thing is that it works offline. So imagine maybe going for a 5-10 hour flight and you want to get some work done. Well, you won't be able to actually use the state-of-the-art AI, but you might be able to use a local AI model if you want to do some work. So another one that's really interesting is model stability. So for example, if I'm building some kind of processes, automations, or even products that rely on me using some kind of a state-of-the-art model. Let's say I have this chatbot, and in the back of this chatbot, actually I'm using, let's say, Opus. Let's actually say I was using Opus 4.6 until recently, and then Opus 4.7 came out. And then all of a sudden, Anthropic wants me to switch from Opus 4.6 to 4.7. But actually, I want to stay on Opus 4.6 because I know exactly how it works. I have fine-tuned it to get the exact results. But now the company is forcing me to go to the new model. With open source, I'm downloading and local AI, I'm downloading the model on my machine so it stays stable. nobody's forcing me to update. So if you have certain workflows that you want to keep very fixed, that is a really, really cool way to do so. And lastly, and that's a more speculative and very highly dependent on your use case, speed. It might be faster to use local AI model because everything happens on your machine. So there's no like network traffic where you have to call some kind of servers and the information traveling to the servers and back. Everything happens on machines. So theoretically, it could be faster, but that obviously depends on what kind of things you're working on, because a lot of the times you have a worse machine or worse RAM, or your computer is not as strong as the machines that these big companies have running their AI models. So it might be faster to still work with them. So that depends. But yeah, just to recap, it is completely free. If you use open source models, it is completely private. It works offline. You can make it stable to a specific model, and it can be faster. Alrighty, so what kind of local AI models can we have? The most obvious ones is just large language models, which is what most of us are using. Things like, just imagine things like GPT 5.5 or Opus 4.6. Those are large language models. We can also have audio models on our machines. So these would be models that help us turn the speech into text or text into speech. So STT, speech to text, means that, for example, I have a recording of my meeting, and I could run it through this local audio AI, and it would just transcribe it for me for free. Or text to speech would mean that I would speak into computer, use my local AI model to actually transfer that speech into text. And again, nothing would leave my computer. So that would be TTS models. And then we have vision models, which we have three versions. One is seeing. So vision models that help the model see. So this would be me sending an image, a screenshot, and then the model would translate this into code so you can read it. Another one would be image generation. This would be me inputting usually text and getting out an image. And then video generation would be me putting in text and getting out a video, right? So these are the biggest types of local AI models. There's more, but in the most use cases, these do cover everything we need. So even just by me talking, you have seen some use cases. So you might want to use something where you help transcribe a meaning. You could use LLMs to code things or to synthesize documents, or you can use vision models to help you generate images. All right. Okay. So the next thing that's extremely important is the core trade-off. And this core trade-off is obviously between quality and speed. So if we go back to the parameters, the more parameters we have, the better the model is. But the better the model is, the more parameters it has, the slower it is to run on a machine, a type of machine that we would usually have access to. So just to give you some examples, so this is 3B to 70B. What this B stands for is billions of parameters, right? So with 3 billions of parameters, our quality would be pretty low, but we would be very fast. And with 70 billion, we would be very, very fast, but pretty slow. And basically, also the size of the parameters, it influences how much RAM we need to actually run it. For 70 billion parameters, we would need 128 gigabytes of RAM. 30 billion parameters, we would need 64 gigabytes of RAM, and so on. So what's important to know is also for you to get a feeling for how this influences the performance of the machine is to have a look at how local AI model actually uses the RAM on your machine. So the RAM that you have on your computer. So let's imagine that I'm starting a chat with a local AI model, and it's just the beginning of the chat, right? So I just started this. And we have 4 different things here. So first is the model, the size of the model, which is this thing, 30 billion parameters. But actually obviously, it doesn't matter if I just started the chat or if I'm in the chat for a long time, model is fixed. It's a fixed size. However, the context, so this is me talking to the AI model, can increase, right? In the beginning, it's very low, but the more I'm talking to it, the more of RAM I'm using, right? More space on my computer I'm using. There's another part that's also eating up our processor, which is runtime. And all of these together basically influence how much of free RAM we still have available, right? Um, Big point of what I'm trying to say here is just the size of the model is preloaded into your RAM when you start using it, and it's fixed. And then the longer you have this one chat running, the more likely you are to hit issues with performance, with speed, because you are hitting the limits of your machine, right? So, um, going back to the resource called token efficiency, you can learn more about basically how you can keep these conversations short so that you're not hitting this context limits even within your own machine. So, what does it mean for what model size I can run locally? Well, typically for consumer grade machines, we are somewhere between 8 gigabytes of RAM to 128 gigabytes of RAM. And if you're not sure what you have, you can check this out. If you're on Mac, on the top left of your screen, there is an Apple. If you just click on this Apple, you just click about this Mac, and you will see how much gigabyte of RAM you have. And even if you're Windows, not sure exactly how to do it, but you can definitely ask your AI of choice to help you find this exact same information. So once you have this information, and basically in my case, 32 gigs, I know that I should be looking for models that have roughly up to 14 gigabytes, maybe 15 gigabytes, 16 gigabytes of RAM. No, not RAM, but their size of this model is roughly 14, 15 gigabytes, right? And I'll show you in a bit what Ollama is and how to do this. But for now, to know, basically just try to download, when you figure out what your RAM is, just divide it with 2 and look at models that are below that, right? So if you have 128 gigabyte of RAM, divided by 2, that would be 64 gigabytes. So just look for models that are less than that. Okay. Just a fun fact. So if we would try to download Opus 4.7, currently the most capable model from Anthropic, which has billions of parameters. So here we're talking about billions of parameters with local models. There we're talking about a trillion. You will need a machine, special enterprise level machine that costs roughly $500,000 to $1 million to just run that model. Yeah, very expensive. So just a few gotchas or where things usually break when we work with local AI models. If you see it being too slow, or you start getting bad quality, or if you're running out of memory, you basically have two chances. One is to buy more RAM. So you buy a machine. That's why Mac Minis are very popular these days. People buying Mac Minis with 128 gigabytes of RAM or even more, and just try to put on the best local AI models. So you can buy more RAM, or you can basically, well, if it's too slow, you might be downgraded to a smaller model. And if it's a bad quality, RAM is your only option. So buying more RAM. So now, how do we get started? Well, there is a really cool like intermediary software. It's called Ollama. And what Ollama basically allows you to do, so Ollama with double L, OLLAMA.com. And if you download this, and if you install this on your machine, and you do it very simply, you just copy this thing, you open up a terminal, right? So you go in terminal, and you just literally paste this in, like this, and press enter. I'm not going to because I already have it installed, but if you press enter, it will install Ollama for you. And once it is installed, then the way you actually can install models and work with it is you click into models, and you can choose through what's available. Now, the way to find the models that are useful to your use case is, well, to do some research with AI, of course, why not? So if you're building something where you want to be coding for free or locally, you basically are looking for the best coding open source project right now. So in this case, that might be Qwen. So that would be like written like this, Qwen. You can see it here. If you're looking for something even more general and less heavy on the RAM, we might look at Gemma 4, which is something Google recently released. So yeah, I mean, I think it's just very important to do some research on this to find a model. But if you're just starting out, something in the Gemma or Quen family might be a good like first step. Try it out. Um, and if you're going for audio models, then Whisper is good. So Whisper written like this. Whisper model is a good one to install in your machine and just, I don't know, turn a audio recording of a meeting into a transcript. That would be a nice use case as well. So yeah, so the way you once you get to a model you're interested in downloading, just click into it and you will get this command line interface bash command that you can just copy and basically bring into your terminal. So if I get rid of this, oh, yeah, I just paste in exactly this, and then it will basically run Gemma 4. If I don't have it installed, it will ask me to install it. I will just say yes, and that's it. Oh, by the way, when you are installing Ollama, what you will have to do is you will paste this in, and it will ask you for a password, which is the password of your computer. You put it in, and then it will install everything for you. So yeah, back to the models. So in terms of the models, let's go back to Gemma 4. And really neat thing here is also like if you are familiar with using Claude Code, if you actually want to use Gemma 4 within familiar Claude Code user interface, you basically just copy this and paste it in the terminal. And then you will be using Claude Code, and it might look like you're using Opus 4.7, but actually you will be using Gemma 4 at the backend, right? So, and the same goes for Codex or OpenClaw or Hermes Agent if you want to use Gemma 4 within those harnesses. Yeah, also, when you get to this page, you can see many different models, right? If I click into this, you will see that there's a lot of different sizes of this model that I can download. And again, here I would suggest to use this rule that we have talked about, which is RAM divided by 2, and then take something around your size. But also, I mean, just use AI to also explain what the use case you're trying to build for is, and tell it you want to build with, tell it to which open source AI model it might suggest, and also which size it might suggest for you to use. There's also useful tags here on the top, which you can see what this model is capable of, because in this case, it is capable of vision, audio, and thinking. So it kind of covers all three of these buckets for us. Back to the overview. Let's see. Did we cover everything? Yeah, so we have installed the Llama. We have covered how to install a model, and now it's just on us to make something. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it and happy making for free with AI. And yeah, show us what you shipped.